Hey y'all, it's Tiara. You can call me T because we're gonna get real comfortable, and we are back with another episode of the Table Talk podcast. Got my co-host Q, and we're gonna be good today.
All the time. All the time.
We got a special guest, Ladarius Campbell, international influencer. You may have seen him for his viral videos, been on the Shade Room, lots of other places, but I'll let him tell y'all all about the great things he does.
Thank you. Excited to be here. My name is Ladarius Campbell, like she said, content creator, influencer. Been in this space for about a year and a half. I do men's fashion as well as lifestyle content. Outside of that, I'm a husband, a father, man of God. I have a full-time job, help lead a Bible study. I'm also on diversity and inclusion board at my job as well. So wear a lot of hats. But again, happy to be here.
Yeah, a lot of hats. What do you do to just chill out? Because you got a lot going on. Good stuff.
I love restaurants. I love to eat. Eating is like, in Dallas is like coming up with a new restaurant a day. So it's like there's plenty of abundance out there to choose from. So I love exploring restaurants.
Listen, you got money, you'll never go hungry.
Yeah, for sure.
Lord, yeah.
Keith, you got money? Because outside is like, outside is $100 a day. And I was looking at the memes the other day. I was like, y'all funny, but no, for real though. What's your favorite restaurant in Dallas? I know there's a lot to choose from.
I'm not good at favorites, period.
Okay.
Like I don't have many. I only have a favorite color. That's about it.
Okay.
Else, it's just too much to choose from. But I will say one thing about Dallas is like there's these places going up with like beautiful aesthetics and like trash food. It's like we're paying for your decorations at this point because the food is just not it.
Yeah. I was about to name some, but I'm not gonna do that.
Please don't do it.
I think my favorite restaurant right now is Drake's. Have you been to Drake's?
No, my wife went there, and they were the rich aunties spending all that money eating crazy good. So I missed that.
Yes, I feel like the vibe and the food, like you said, it's sometimes hard to get that good balance, and Drake's is really
What
good.
level is Drake's on? Is it like a Perry's or is it like
probably like a step above Perry's, low key.
Step above?
Yeah.
Okay. Like what would you?
You should definitely go take.
If like the dollar signs on Yelp, you probably got about
6 of them.
5 easily.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's cool, y'all. We got to get Drake's. Y'all heard?
Drake's.
Okay,
All
sponsor.
Right. Last week we got what? Serious? Was it Serious Pizza?
Serious Pizza. Oh yeah, that's pretty good.
Okay. Now we got Drake's. All right, cool. That'll work.
All right. Well, Ladarius, before we even get into really your journey, can you just talk to people out there who maybe aren't as familiar of like they've maybe heard the word influencer as a kind of buzzword, but they don't really understand or know what it is that influencer or content creator, what do you actually do?
I think for me personally, my brand is all about giving things range, basically. And what that pretty much embodies is just optimizing every area of life, from clothing to just the roles that I play as a father and a husband. And as an influencer, it's just kind of really giving that more exposure and more influence, if you will, where it's like people were seeing it on a larger scale and creating content to like help advertise for companies as well. So I'm dealing with like endorsements and brand partnerships. That's been great fun. Like a lot of great companies I've been sponsored by. So just creating content for them, creating, strategies on like how to make it look nice, how to make it something that people want to actually buy, people actually want to like interact with, that aligns with my personal brand as well. So it's a lot of video content for me personally, a lot of learning, but yeah.
What were you like? What was your thing before, like the fashion thing popped? Was that kind of like always your thing?
Yeah, fashion has always been the primary passion that I've always been passionate about, and like this all started as a passion project, right? So I started off like with this like green double-breasted suit that I recorded a video for just one random Sunday. And then I was like, I'm gonna do this I posted it that following Saturday, and I was like, I'm gonna post a video every Saturday because like I'm passionate about fashion. So like it's always been fashion, and I'm slowly adding these other lifestyle oriented things because I'm noticing that, as men, like the house and the role of man in this world is not cultivated as much as it needs to. And it's like I'm trailblazing in ways that, I want to be able to leave a blueprint, these ways to go about interacting in those spaces as I learn. So.
Gotcha.
I love that you said it started as a passion project, because I think a lot of people see it and they see the sponsorships, they see the paid partnerships,
For sure.
they see the dollar signs,
Oh, yeah.
and it's like I want to be an influencer and I want to make the money. And, you know, there's nothing wrong with wanting to be wealthy and, you know, successful. Yeah. But I think we forget that comes when God when we're walking in purpose, right? Yeah, like for sure. That is something that he adds, but it's not necessarily something that you just are seeking. You're seeking, what is God calling me to do? And from that, you know, he adds and builds. So do you feel like you're called to do this? And how did you know that? So I think it's so crazy because like the word calling has this like, God said, Ladarius, pick up a phone and record a video and you're going to be influenced. Like, no, like it happened like in sections. Right. And like, I think for me, the calling came with number one, like me having ears to hear the calling. Right. I think that a lot of times we busy ourselves with things that God didn't necessarily call us to. And when his call comes through, we can't answer it because we don't see it because we give him a busy signal. Mm-hmm. And it's like, God never told you to be doing these things over here, but it's like, I'm calling you to do this, but you can't even answer the phone because like you're too busy for me, right? So like number one is like having ears to actually hear the call, and that looked like, you know, sitting down, not partying as much, not, you know, being like as social as I was once upon a time because I was running away from things in my past, to just like really just setting aside time to actually hear from God, right? And then once that happened, you know, it led me to answering the call, right? And once I answered the call and kind of learned how his voice sounded, it led me to a community of believers. And from there, in that community is where my faith was cultivated and my ability to like learn who God really was for myself. My identity in him, you know, was anchored in that community. And after that, that's where the idea for the Passion Project came. It's like I was leading the men of Lit Bible Study, shout out to Lit Bible Study, in that space, and somebody was like, you need a Passion Project.
Tell Joe he owed us $5.
For sure. But one of the guys was like, you need a Passion Project. And I was like, well, you know, I've always loved fashion. So that's the passion piece of it all. And like I was like, I'm on social media for a decent amount. So like from there, you know, like I just tried it out, and it was a byproduct of, you know, just me answering the call of God and like going into community and then listening to the community that he blessed me with, to a point to where now I'm here and, you know, like I'm operating in it not because I asked to, but because this is what God did with like what I gave him, you know? So I think that your like, obedience. Yeah, for sure.
Let me ask you a question about something you said, man. I think this is something that a lot of people struggle with. You've said this multiple times just in your soliloquy that you've kind of just given, right? You heard him. I hear a lot of people say, how do you know that's God? Can you speak to how you knew that it was him versus something that you wanted to do, or maybe a conversation you heard Tiara and I having? He said, I think that'll be a good idea versus a God idea. Can you kind of speak to that?
Good. Yeah, so I think that the first part of answering that question has to do with that sitting down session, right? That sitting down season for me, where it's like I had to deny myself. I had to deny my voice because I know how I sound, because I've been sounding like this for 27 years. I know how I sound, right? So it was this space of let me sit down, and it was, okay, this is how you sound. How does God sound? And it started off with just something simple as like just getting into the Bible, reading it, looking at podcasts, going to church, like those things. And it's like from there, I kind of realized that there was another voice that was beyond my own voice, right? That was saying something that almost I didn't want to follow. You know what I'm saying? I didn't want to be called to, because like the first two things I gave up in my walk with Christ was my finances, I started tithing, and sex.
Okay.
Money and sex rule the world. So it's like with me giving those two things up, it made me be able to hear his voice a lot better. And it was counter the voice that I had been listening to up until the point that I really sat down and listened to God for myself. And like from there, like that discernment piece came, right? And that's where the Holy Spirit started to be imparted in me, to where like I know how God speaks to me. Because like God speaks to me, it sounds like my voice, but I know it's not like actually me talking. It's like it sounds like my voice, but it's not my voice in a sense, if that makes sense. It's like he speaks to me like a voice in my head that sounds like me, but it's him.
Yeah. I mean, you know, the Bible talks about, brother, how the sheep would know the voice of that shepherd.
Yeah.
Right? I think I think some of us may not necessarily understand the voice of the shepherd because we may not necessarily be operating as sheep. When you're kind of, and this is an analogy that a guy told me. I was having a problem praying. This was like maybe 10 years ago, something like that. Maybe longer than that, actually. I was having a problem praying. And I said, man, listen, I get down there and say, Lord, forgive me, whatever it may be. Did I lock my car? Right? Is my car locked? Right? It's just my mind just going, right? And then when I finished, I wasn't hearing that, right? And I was telling the guy, he was like maybe in his 60s, bro, probably one of the wisest cats I ever met, right? He said, your radio too loud. I said, no, I'm not in the car when I'm listening. Like, I could be at home. He said, no, you misunderstanding me. The radio of life is too loud in your life. You got so much stuff turned up, it's impossible for you to hear him. He could be sitting right next to you. Like, logically think about you being in your car with your volume turned all the way up. Can you hear the person next to you? Does it mean that they're not speaking? Does it mean that they're not trying to convey something to you? But you've allowed something else to become priority over his voice. That's it's impossible for you to hear. So I'm glad you shared that, brother.
That's good, bro.
And I think in terms of like discerning the voice of God too, when you start to understand who God is and understand his character, there's some things that you like, okay, I know that's not God because that is in contradiction to what his word says. So that's why I think it's so important for us to really be in the word, because a lot of the things that we're wondering if it's God, it's like there's something that straight up says no, that's
like
not,
black and white.
That's not him. And you can figure that out yourself. You don't have to go and it's right there. So it's really important for us to start to measure what we think we hear from God up against what the word of God actually says.
Man, that is huge. You know how many people who've had things spoken into their life that's anti-Bible, right? God told me to tell you. No, he didn't.
Y'all be careful with that. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
You got to be careful who you let speak. And some people have the greatest of intentions, but discernment. Again, you can't let everybody speak everything over and into your life. But go ahead. What you're saying.
That was just on point. What you're saying, like that word has to be your guide. One of the things that I heard a pastor say a while back, I hate to see people quote the Bible while they're violating it. Right? Like you're so high and mighty, right? You're disobeying what the word says, even in your communication of it. So I'm with you. I'm with you. Yeah.
And speaking of that, like, Ladarius, I know that you meet a lot of people, right? In terms of your circle, and you have the opportunities to be in different settings. What was the transition, I guess, into, well, you already working in sales. So was that an easy transition? And do you find Christ coming up in your conversations? Or do you kind of try to just stick to whatever the topic is that you're speaking on? Or how does it work for you?
I think that it's hard for me to interact in the environments that I'm in right now as a result of where this has brought me without talking about Christ. I think that earlier on in my walk, I was somebody who was like kind of shying away from it because of, I don't think I had enough encounters with him from like where he brought me, like where I was to where he brought me, to be able to like talk about him boldly, because I was like, I kind of want to be relatable more than I want to be real, right? It's like, I think a lot of times we dumb down Christ because we want to be relatable to the culture, but like Christ is countercultural. So like for me, it's like I was coming out of the world, like I was a people pleaser, like just straight up. Like I never wanted to shake the table. I wanted to keep the harmony. I wanted to keep the peace. I wanted to tell you what you wanted to hear, not what you needed to hear. And it's like, going into the spaces that I'm in now, it's like I have no choice because his hand in my life is just too evident. It's too real. The experience that I've had with him is too real to where, like, I've been in rooms with people who are just doing amazing things, making great money, and like talking about investing, right? Talking about investing money and like how great that is, how important that is. And it's like, that is great. But it's like, do you know about like investing in your eternal self? That's a different level of investment, So it's like for me now, I'm in spaces where I proclaim Jesus is like power, his strength boldly, because I've seen it in my own life firsthand, right? Versus being the third party of like, oh, like I heard that he's good. Like I know. I know for sure. So it's like the transition hasn't been tough as far as the sales piece goes. Like that has helped me a lot from like a business standpoint and operating my business. That's helped, but it's still tough. Like learning curve as a full-time entrepreneur has been tough.
But he never said it would be easy, right?
Sure.
I think we mistake, and I'm not saying you do this. I just mean in general. I think we mistake favor or love or whatever spiritual word you want to throw in there for a lack of problems.
Mm-hmm.
He never said that there won't be a weapon. He just said it wouldn't prosper against you,
That's good.
right? The weapon coming,
Yeah,
right?
sure.
But it just won't prosper against you. So I think that's cool.
I think that like one thing that I really want a lot more people to understand about this, you know, like they say new levels, new devils, right? Like the temptation just kind of increases as you elevate, right? And like that's a real thing. Like the people who are operating on these levels, like we feel the same things that anybody else would feel going through this. Like if something happens to me that is bad or like whatever the case may be, like I'm gonna feel all the emotions anybody else will be in that situation. Like, but I'm choosing not to stay there. Yep. I'm choosing not to let that define me, you know? And it's like, I know that God says different than what the situation may say, but even though I feel it as a human that I am, like I'm still choosing otherwise. I think that that's what really separates somebody who walks fully in like their calling and like how God has called them to live versus those that don't. Cause it's like, you see me doing this as if I'm operating as if I don't have emotion, as if I don't have the trials, as if I don't feel the things, the doubt, the insecurities, the judgment, the fear of failure. Like I feel those things as well as the person who hasn't even started this journey. Yeah. But I'm choosing to believe otherwise by faith.
Yeah, absolutely.
I feel like as you elevate or as God reveals more and you are more obedient, you realize just how much more you even need him. Because I feel like as I've gone and done different things and stepped out into calling and purpose, it's like, Lord, you said this, you brought me to this, so I'm holding on to your hand for you to guide me through this, because a lot of it is uncharted territory, but I think it's supposed to be that way because it's not supposed to be stuff that we can do in our own might, because if we could do it in our own might, why would we need him or why would we seek him or seek his face? So I think he does some things in a way that we can continue to be dependent on him and realize even as you are doing more in my life, I need you more. I need to seek you more. I need to hear you more. And we can't forget about that.
You know, I know for me, man, a lot of times in my life, the worst thing that can happen to me was a blessing. Like,
speak on that, man.
Man, I mean, I think back to the time, and man, don't cry on this thing. Hey, get yourself together.
Safe space.
Right?
Safe space.
Now, see, I knew she was gonna say something like that. It's all right, Q. Nah. But I think about some of the struggles that I had. I mean, some real struggles, bro. I'm not missing a night of praying. Matter of fact, I'm not even waiting until night to pray.
Yeah.
It's all throughout the day. It's all the time. The word, I've got to get in the word because I need to know what he has to say about this. I got to get out of this, and I'm sold out.
Yeah.
I get blessed. Right? Now I'm taking a breather. Now I'm taking it easy. Now one day I'm not reading, turning to 2 days, and not reading, turning to a week, and not reading.
Mess up your whole streak on the Bible app.
Right. You know what I mean? That's a fact, right?
Let me hear it.
I got to start, or I had to start, I guess, appreciating the deliverance, but not forgetting the process, right?
That's good.
And man, you know, even now, it could be it's not necessarily the success piece now, because I realize now, like you said, everything, the place I'm in is 100% because of him. But it's almost a point of, we talked about this earlier, I got so many things pulling at me, bro.
Yeah.
I'm not really a morning person. I gotta be gone at 6:50 in the morning, right? So the times where I want to get my day started with him, I may be rushing and don't necessarily do it, but I'm breaking the process, right? I need to make sure I make a conscious effort to serve him and seek him the same way I would if if I was struggling.
Yep.
You know? So,
Yep.
That's real. That's real.
And you feel it when you don't.
Yeah.
I
that's
do.
a fact. That's a fact.
Okay. I wanted to talk about.
I'm enjoying this. Listen,
Yeah,
no disrespect to none of the other people that came, right? I loved y'all, but I'm really enjoying this one, bro. Yeah.
Shots fired.
No. See, no shots fired. I have loved our guests, bro. We have had, and you know, T and I, we know each other, but we're still learning our chemistry a little bit, right?
Okay.
So no disrespect to anybody else that's been a part of our podcast.
Yeah.
My gun is in a holster. I have not
On
fired
safety, on
any
safety.
shots. Okay, I'm not fired any shots. But I've enjoyed you, brother.
Appreciate it, man. I appreciate that.
Super dope combo. But I really want to get into this. I think we have to be careful in terms of the influencer piece. I see so many people trying to model their life exactly after people. What would you say to people who maybe don't even realize what all goes into what you do and making sure that you are interacting with that content in a way that you're not idolizing someone, what they have, their lifestyle, or this idea of being an influencer?
Gotcha.
Dude, that's like where we are as a culture. That's a deep question.
Yeah. I would say, like, the word, like, idolatry, right? You have to start with, like, really knowing what that is. And for me, I've identified it as a proximity issue that leads to slavery. And expounding upon that, basically, when it comes to your proximity with God, like how close you are with God, you begin to get further away from him, and then you put that thing in his place. And when you put that in God's place, you begin to worship that thing. But that thing is just going to take away from you, and you'll end up in bondage, right? So that's like, I've identified idolatry as that. And there was an example in the Bible that I thought about, like, to like think about this example. It's like when Moses was in the wilderness with the Israelites, right? He led them out of Egypt. And in this story, like, Moses represents like God's actual presence, right? And he went up to Mount Sinai, right? Talks to God directly about him being tired of leading Israelites in this wilderness. They've left slavery in Egypt. They're in the wilderness. He's on the mountain, right? He goes up there for 40 days. He comes back down. They have melted gold, and they're worshiping and idolizing a calf that they've melted this gold into.
Yeah.
And you think about where they get this gold from. They're in the wilderness with gold. They've been walking in the wilderness with gold. The gold came from Egypt.
Right.
It was a gift from Egypt when they were slaves.
Right.
They were walking around the wilderness with that gold, but it wasn't the issue. It wasn't the idol until God's presence left, until Moses left. And they begin to idolize that thing. Yeah. Their slave nature returned. When God's proximity leaves, when you leave God's proximity, your slave nature returns. And you have to understand that when you are coveting these things, it's trying to make a slave out of you. Yeah. Because the only one thing belongs on that throne, and that's Christ. That's God. He's the only one that can fulfill you in that way. And it's like, I don't want to attach myself, and I want to encourage everybody who's listening to this not to attach yourself to anything other than him, because it's going to continue to keep you in slavery. If it's your marriage and you spend too much time in your marriage and not being in close proximity with God, it can be that, it can be your kid, it can be your job, it can be anything that you are putting above him, and like allowing that to put distance between you and him is going to create slavery in you. Yeah. And you don't want to live that way, because it's exhausting. And it's like, for me, how does that look for me? Like, cause you look at the story that I just told you, like, it was 40 days. He was gone for 40 days. Like, I'm pretty sure they didn't like take the earrings off and melt them on day one. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was a gradual, like, we were worshiping him in God's presence. He was telling us all God was saying and doing all these things. Day 22, where he at?
Right.
And it's like, after a certain point, you start doing your own thing. You know what I'm saying? Yep. And for me, I've realized that in this space and influence, and like looking at comparing and contrasting and looking at somebody else's life, trying to compare it to mine, like, that stuff wells up in me. Day one, I was like, that's a fly fit that he got on. Day two, dang, his video got more likes than mine. Day three, should I even be doing this still? Day 4, I wasn't called to do this. You know what I'm saying? And it's like over time, I've been refining my mind by what I'm seeing him do. And not one time have I said, God, what you got for me?
Right.
To break that cycle and like actually renew my mind, right?
Yeah.
And like I think that's the piece that we have to understand. Like, we have to continuously renew our mind so we're not coveting these things, because it's gonna leave you empty at the end of the day.
Yeah. And man, you know, I think a lot of times, I mean, you know, you've been to the old school Baptist church, the lady get up there and say, giving honor to God who's the head of my life.
Yeah.
Right? We'd all have heard that. But I think the reality is God's a part of a lot of people's lives. He's not priority in their life, right? He on the list, but he ain't number one. And I feel like I can be honest and say there are times he ain't number one in mine, right? Sure. In my heart, 100%. Yeah. In my mind, 100%. In my actions, not so much, right? So Bible talks about Proverbs 4:7, wisdom is the principal thing. Therefore, get wisdom, all that getting, get understanding, right? So I had to try to figure out. I did like a little study a while back, like what is wisdom? Yeah. What does that mean? I know one thing, principle mean first. Yeah. So if wisdom is the principal thing, what do I need to learn about actual wisdom, right? And man, just going through, it's a ton of stuff in there that says that it's not too. I didn't realize that either. It talks about how it's not beyond the grave. Like most people say, man, if I were to die and come back, oh my goodness, I'd be spectacular. There's no wisdom in going beyond the grave and then coming back, with the exception of Jesus, right? Yeah. So it's not there. Wisdom is having the ability to know and understand and to be able to apply what you know and understand, right? So I equate it to knowledge. Knowledge is me reading a science book. I can read that science book. I'm gaining knowledge. If I understand it, I can then communicate it back to T and say, hey, I was reading this science book today. This is what I read. I didn't know this. I didn't know that. I didn't know this. Yeah. Wisdom is now I pursue a career in biology or become a scientist. Now I'm applying what I know and understand and using what I know and understand, that's right? Good. So once I truly begin to wrap my mind around what wisdom is, and God should just ask me, bro. It's not that's for him. Just ask me. It's not rocket science. Yeah. If you don't have wisdom, he who lacks wisdom, let him ask. Yeah. And I'll give it to you freely, bro. Yep. So man.
I think this is so important because like the wisdom that the Holy Spirit imparts on you, right? And like being able to apply that, it like that's where I think like a lot of favor pours out, right? Because like going back to the question about like the idolatry piece, it's like the whole like for me, the Holy Spirit catches me. It's like, okay, like if I'm looking at something, comparing, contrasting, whatever, like the Holy Spirit's like, Ladarius, you doing it. Yeah. You doing it. Yeah. Put it down. Yeah. And I'm like, all right, put it down. Yeah. I'm gonna do that. And I feel like a lot of people like try to play in that space where it's like, I heard you, but I ain't really done with this yet. Yeah. You know, and it's like, this isn't the
presuming on his grace, man.
Yeah, exactly. So
Well, we've had fun today, but we're gonna keep it going.
Shots fired.
We got a little rapid fire before we get going. It's a this or that. Okay. So we'll start with what I think is the easy one. Okay, if you having wings, is it drums or flats?
Drums for sure.
For sure.
For sure, drums. They're just first of all, I'm a functional person. And like flats get real messy. They get real messy.
That's true.
So I just these two right here dedicated for the wing. Just that's why I like drums. Bro.
It's flats for me
really?
All day. Yeah.
I heard they have more flavor.
I said both. Listen, you put them in.
Are you giving them?
Okay, what about ranch or blue cheese?
Oh no.
Oh. You gonna say ranch, huh?
I'm gonna say ranch.
I knew you. You look like you eat ranch.
Oh yeah.
What does somebody who eat ranch look like?
I ain't gonna lie. I'm a little nervous about ranch lately. I ain't gonna lie. So I've been like, we got these little containers that we put ranch in when we like eat at home, and like I'll put it under the hot. We got hot water at our house. Okay. And we'll put it under there. That ranch be under the sink like this, just looking back up at us, like just not going nowhere. I'm like, what is in this stuff? Like, it's a little thick.
I'm blue cheese, man.
Really?
I don't say really like. The disgust. Yeah, I'm from.
Where you from?
I'm from Louisiana.
Okay, I know
blue cheese on the wings, ranch on the fries.
Louisiana. I mean, you got some credible taste buds.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Sugar or salt on your grits?
For sure, salt. Give me some shrimp and grits. Give me some. Yeah, give me some.
Somebody. I'm not gonna say no names.
Sugar.
Yeah, somebody.
But like what? Like that's like for me. Like sugar on your grits is like okay.
It's
That's
like
where it starts and
delicious.
ends. It's like you got butter and sugar, and that's it. It's like when you get the salt, you can do like the you can do the shrimp and grits. You can do the sausage. You can do the crawfish if you want to. You can dress
Somebody
that up.
ran out of salt
eat
one day,
savory
bro.
grits, but
It
I
ran
just
out of salt
really
Yeah,
one day.
that was
enjoy
a
sugar
yeah.
on my grits too, especially.
No.
Yeah, I just enjoy it. I need Ben
No.
sugar Ben.
Definitely should.
Okay.
You know what you're doing? You actually both.
What?
What? You know what you're doing?
Red part, you do put a little salt in there. That can
Oh, you talking about that?
You mean like cooking it with the salt, and then
Actually
sprinkling
adding the sugar
after.
in it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I thought you meant.
Like just even.
Y'all
Yeah.
so judgy.
Okay.
Okay. Pizza Hut, Papa John's, or this three. Pizza Hut, Papa John's, or Domino's?
Pizza Hut.
I'm Domino's.
Domino's.
I like Domino's crust better. I ain't gonna lie.
It was saying last time, like Domino's everywhere, bro.
Yeah, it is.
You gotta catch a plane to find a Pizza Hut, bro.
Yeah, that's so true.
Yeah.
Domino's got
I
some
like
little
Domino's.
pastas
I
too
used
that
to
we
like-
having. That's good. They be good too.
They do have a variety of things.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm logging out on this one. Favorite pair of Jordans?
Don't
not
make
a-
me put my feet on the table now.
I'm not a sneaker.
Hey.
I'm not a sneakerhead
Hey.
by nature.
Good. Hey,
Those
listen,
off-white.
Listen, let me-
Those off-white fours are fire. Oh, okay. Come on,
yeah.
go. Come
Hey,
on.
man, you know what I'm saying?
Come on, Midas.
Hey.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like
Those are
those.
nice.
Yeah.
I'm 11 guy, man.
Really?
Yeah, I'm 11 guy.
I like the ones just by nature because I'm a universal person. I love like being able to apply my like multiple things in my wardrobe. So that's a little biased, but
The
those
one's dope too. I like one.
those off-white fours, those are fire. I like those a lot.
Four.
But not I don't like all the fours, but those fours,
I
look at
got
those
you.
fours. Those
I
fours are
got
for
you.
me.
Yeah, I tapped out. I don't even know the names of none of them.
Do you have any?
I have some because my aunt lives next to
Outlet?
the family of a prominent basketball player.
Okay.
Okay.
So she was like getting rid of a lot of Jordans, and I was like, okay, cool. So she gave me some.
See?
I sold a pair on like what is it,
StockX,
for
yeah.
like $400.
That's a whole
And I was
business.
like,
That's a whole
oh.
business
See,
right there.
stuff like that only happen. Somebody who loves Jordans, that situation
Don't happen
never
ever.
happens.
No.
It's always some. You know.
I really
And
care
then
about
my
it.
friend, he was like, you probably could have got about $100 more from. I was
what I'm
like,
Yeah.
didn't know.
That's a whole
it,
business
didn't
right
know
there in
it.
itself.
That's
Yeah.
a fact.
Y'all, don't be judging. I just
We're not
I'm
judging.
I'm talking to the people.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
Y'all, I hope that y'all enjoyed Table Talk. We will see you back next week. But before that, I would love, Ladarius, just share how can people interact more with you? You dropped a lot of dope gems,
Thank
and
you,
I
thank
know
you.
they're gonna want to hear more.
Absolutely.
So you can find me on Instagram or TikTok at Ladarius Campbell. It's a long name. LADARIUSCAMPBELL. Yeah.
All right, y'all. It's been a great time. We hope that y'all stay good, stay prayed up, and really think through a lot of the things that we talked about, specifically about being called to something, purpose, and really discerning the voice of God, and then being obedient to what you hear. We love y'all, and we'll see y'all next time on the Table Talk. See ya.
Thank you for listening to the Table Talk Podcast, presented by the Concord Church Young Adults. Be sure to subscribe on YouTube and Apple Podcasts, in addition to following us on Instagram at Concord Young Adults.